Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is December 18th, 2024, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? I am your co-host. My name is Ben Dickerson. Want to kick it off with a few who would have thunk it's. A couple things came up as they do sometimes as we get deep into the season. And let me tell you what I got for you today. First one, Josh Allen, through 2023 and 2024, first quarterback in NFL history with multiple seasons of 25 plus passing TDs and 10 plus rushing TDs. Believe that? Not Lamar. Who would have thunk it? Next one. The game between the Bengals and the Titans this past weekend was the first game in NFL. We got a lot of NFL history here. First game in NFL history with 10 combined turnovers and 26 combined penalties. Sheesh.
That what you would call a new low?
Yeah, that's the new low.
Okay.
That is officially the new low. Jamar Chase has 15 receiving touchdowns this year. That's more receiving touchdowns than the Panthers, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Giants, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Chargers. None of those teams have more than 15 or for their whole receiving core, for the whole team. I think I got one more. Yep, I got one more. There are 4 defensive players remaining that have not missed a single snap this season. This is rare. 4 guys. Those 4 guys are Trent McDuffie of the Kansas City Chiefs, Quentin Lake of the LA Rams, Zaire Franklin of the Indianapolis Colts, and Xavier Woods of the Carolina Panthers. Those 4 guys have not missed a defensive snap the entire season. That's incredible.
That is. When you say that, because so often you have guys, especially on defense, where they bring them guys in and taking guys out. So when you say a defensive snap, is he like a 3-down guy? Is there every down?
He never comes off the field when the defense is on the field.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. That's crazy. All right, Benny. Well, who would have thunk it? Are in for the evening, and you got some good ones there. Let's proceed on to the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and take a look at how the teams finished out the week that was. So here we have the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports for NFL weeks 15 and 16. That will be 15 for the rankings and 16 for the upcoming matchups. So, Benny, here we go. Here's our top 8, our top half, as I would like to say. Let's get it right. There we go. In the shaded section at the top, have the top 25% of the league in terms of net points, and points scored, APF, that's average points for. APA, average points against, that's your defensive scoring numbers, and your average turnover differential. And turnovers lead to points. So number 1, we always have to give some level of love to our number 1 ranked team. So although Detroit took one on the chin, they still hold on to that number 1 ranking in terms of net points with plus 12.6. I remind people that net points and turnover differential can be both positive and negative. And they maintain their number 1 status in terms of scoring, averaging 32.8 points per game. Then we have Denver, tied with the Philadelphia Eagles in average points against at 17.6. I'm gonna give all of them love. They got the same number. And then in turnover differential, again, we have a tie. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Buffalo had been number one, but just traded places. They're both averaging plus 1.3 turnover differential per game. So that means they're taking it away 1.3 times more than they're giving it up. So congratulations to the number one ranked teams in our rankings. Now, the shaded area is your top 25%. The teams in red are the teams that have a problematic ranking differential, and I'll explain what that means. But let's look at your top 8 in terms of net points, going from Detroit to Buffalo to Philadelphia to Minnesota, Green Bay, Denver, Baltimore, and Washington. So your highest probability of Super Bowl team is going to come from that top 8. Sometimes you get a few guys that are down there in the top half, or that might slip up. The team that everybody has to keep an eye on, that would be the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 11th, averaging plus 5 points per net points per game. So that would be one right there. Now, in scoring, you've got just 1 point differential between Detroit and Buffalo. Man, Benny, that was a great game. I can't wait till you give the review on that. But then you've got 3 teams in a row who are scoring above 28 points per game. That's Baltimore at 29.9, Tampa Bay at 28.8, and Cincinnati at 28.5.
Mm-hmm.
All in red. As you can see, if you look on the APA side, in terms of scoring, you will not see those teams in that top half. Number 6 is Washington. 7 is Green Bay, and 8 is Philadelphia. So Philly's scoring 26.4 points per game, tied with Minnesota, as a matter of fact, and a little bit ahead of Kansas City again, the standing champs, only averaging 23.5 points per game. So that's where that stands. So you got your top 8 there, and as I always say to people, come to Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, Sterling, and find out where your team ranks so that you can get an idea about what they've been actually doing. In terms of defense, Benny, you've got, again, 3-way tie for first, and then Minnesota coming in at 4th. Kansas City, a strong 5th, and that's what's holding them on. Pittsburgh, 18.9 points per game. Detroit, 20.1, and Green Bay, 20.5. I think Detroit dropped a little bit after that last game, Benny. If I remember correctly, they were a little higher in terms of points against. And then in terms of your turnovers, we talked about Pittsburgh and Buffalo. We got Houston, the Chargers, Chicago, strangely enough, up there in the top 8 in turnover differential. Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. So these are all teams that you keep hearing a lot about in terms of most of these have either clinched or close to clinching a playoff berth at this particular point. So there's your top group. Now, the lower half of this, I'll let everybody just take a quick look here. You see my Niners at 15 in terms of scoring. You do not see them on the defensive side, but they're not in the top 8, so that's why I didn't put them in red. On the defensive side, Miami only giving up 22.3 points per game, tied with New Orleans with those Saints. I just thought that was interesting. Sometimes we talk about the neighborhoods, right, Benny? You look down and see a team and see all the other teams, the neighborhood that they're in. And it makes you, kind of get a better perspective as to, where they stand competitively to the rest of the league. We see Arizona, for example, over net points at 0.6 on the plus side, and Seattle at 0.1. Don't they play I think they play each other this weekend, don't they?
Who, Arizona and Seattle?
Yeah.
Um, no.
Okay. Well,
No, Cardinals got the Panthers this week.
that's what I'm thinking. Okay. All right.
Seattle's got the Vikings, though.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. You'll
That's a
talk
good one.
about that. You'll talk about that. Now, you notice in the top half, those in red were mainly on the offensive side. So these are teams that had top-rated offenses, but their defenses are in the lower tiers of the league, except for the Chargers, with a top-rated off defense. Their offense, though, ranked 20th, only scoring 21 points on average per game. On the defensive side, again, my beloved Niners right there, 17, allowing 22.9 points per game. But then below that, Tampa Bay, 23.3, Baltimore, 23.7. And the classic, we can score points, but we can't stop anybody team, Cincinnati ranked 31st in defense, allowing 27.6 points per game. So if you're looking at these teams as potential Super Bowl competitors, you got to look at both sides of the ball, and you might want to look at these guys with a little bit of trepidation there, because that's not usually going to take you too far. Last place, we have Carolina at net points minus 12.2. The Giants at 14.9 points per game in scoring, average points for. Carolina, again, allowing 29.9 points per game in last place. And the Vegas Raiders with a minus 1.4 average turnover differential, and that would be last place.
Let's see, we were talking about points against. Now, today, Philadelphia's sitting at number 3, points against.
Tied for first, actually.
Actually tied for first, correct. That is correct, 17.6.
Now that we've covered the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, you got any comments on these rankings?
No, everybody looks like I said before, the cream is beginning to rise to the top. There's still going to be some changes. There were multiple turnover games this past weekend, and there were several pretty strong blowouts. So I'm sure we're going to see some movement in a lot of these categories, points for and points against, and turnover differential, which of course should be reflected on the average net point rankings.
Yeah. Let's move on to the actual matchups in the Bias Plus reports. Now, again, the Bias Plus reports takes into account the average net points and the average turnover differential. We submit them into a super secret formula calculation, and then we come out with a Bias Plus score. Our background today, Benny, don't you like to run plays?
Oh, okay. Where'd you get that from?
I can't say, Benny. It's copyright reasons. You know.
Gotcha.
But, they're running all over the place, and I like some different things where you got people going in different directions. Of course, unless you're up against a zone and you can flood aside and get numbers on your thing. I like this follow. I run this all the time with Kittle. So yeah, there we go. Just that's the background for the Bias Plus reports, Benny. Let's get ready to go into tomorrow's Thursday 12-19 game. We have the Browns at the Bengals. The Bias Plus score of 14.1 favors the Bengals. So you got your 31st ranked Bengals defense against the Browns' 30th ranked offense. The Bengals are allowing 27.6 points per game. The big difference is on offense, where the Bengals are putting up some points, and the Browns. The Browns and the Bengals are putting up 28.5, and the Browns are allowing 28.4. So they should be able to get their offense going. The question is, can the Browns get their offense going?
Right. Well, sir, as I go through these, I'm going to let everybody know that I'm going to put each team in the category where they actually reside as far as the playoff race is concerned. They will have either clinched a playoff spot, meaning exactly what it says. They've clinched a playoff spot. They're in the playoffs. Their actual seed may not have been determined yet. The only thing they really would have to play for is if they're trying to get a division title. The next category would be in the hunt. Now, if you're declared as in the hunt, that means basically you got a really good chance of making the playoffs. And if, in fact, the playoffs started today, you would be in. The next category is on the bubble. Now, on the bubble is a very precarious spot to be in, but basically what that means is you haven't been mathematically eliminated. And depending on what the other teams in your division are doing and how your division records look, you still have an opportunity to get yourself a playoff spot. And then last but not least would be you're eliminated, meaning, yes, you are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. No way, no how can you make it. So that being said, let me find my first, where am I? Oh, yeah, right. Here we go. So our first game is tomorrow night, Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns are 3-11. They've been eliminated. The Bengals are 6-8, but guess what? They're on the bubble. They still got a shot. Let's talk about those Browns. They lost to the Chiefs last week, 21-7. They had some highlights, believe it or not. They had a lot more lowlights. There's few highlights where Jerome Ford had a 62-yard touchdown run, and Jerry Jeudy, who's actually having a really good season since Jameis came on board, he had 11 catches for 108 yards, which took him over the 1,000-yard mark for the season, which is a big deal for wide receivers, especially when it's contract time. Now the Browns' lowlights. Oh, God, we can go right over these real fast. 6 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and 2 lost fumbles. And after coming back from a serious knee injury he suffered last season, Nick Chubb is out again for the rest of this season with a broken foot. Oh, yeah, I think Jameis started his last game this season. I believe they're going to bench Jameis. I'm not sure if that's official yet, but I don't think he's going to be starting any more games. Now, the Bengals defense hasn't given anyone much to talk about, anything positive to talk about anyway. But in this game against Tennessee, they got 4 interceptions. They recovered 2 fumbles. And the offense turned the 6 turnovers total into 24 points. That's exactly what you want. Defense gets you the ball, you take the ball down and you score. Field goals, touchdowns, whatever you got to do. So that's a big positive for the Bengals, who have not given up on their chances to make the playoffs. Joe Burrow threw 2 interceptions himself, and he lost a fumble also. That's 3 turnovers for him. But the Bengals have so much firepower that the Titans, who they played, had no chance to overcome them. Cleveland's got to go Cincinnati. They're probably going to play the young boy, what's his name, Dorian Thompson, something or other. But whether he starts or whether Jameis starts doesn't really matter. Bengals offense is humming, and the defense is actually showing signs of life. So I believe I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game.
All righty then, going with the bias, going with the Bengals. All right, what do we have next here? Ben, we have games on Saturday.
Yes, we do.
We have games on Saturday. The first one I have here is Texans at Chiefs.
Let me say this while I have it on my mind real quick. While I'm going over my stuff, see if you can look and check. I think the Saturday games are going to be on Netflix.
No, you're right. They are.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. Okay. So we know about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Texans got the bias.
Bias plus score of 0.2 favors the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, Benny.
Yes.
Wasn't it the Texans defensive back that had the hit and all the hubbub happened with it?
Yes. He got suspended.
He got more than suspended.
Yes. Well, the suspension kicked in something on his contract.
Well, this is what I'm about to say, because I put it up on our Facebook page, and all I could say was like, wow. Houston Texans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair's hit on Trevor Lawrence voided his $9 million guaranteed 2025 salary due to the 3-game suspension. He also missed out on over $300,000 worth of game checks.
That's crazy. But so people understand, it wasn't just because of that hit. He's got a little bit of, some baggage he's carrying from some other hits earlier in the season and in previous seasons. And he's kind of been a marked man. So that's off the accumulation of penalties.
Well, let's see here. Texans, Chiefs. On a net point basis, the Chiefs are +5. The Texans are +2. The Chiefs have the 5th ranked defense, 18.5 points allowed per game. Texas have the 13th ranked offense, scoring 23.4 points per game. The Texans have the 9th ranked defense, allowing 21 points, and the Chiefs have the 12th ranked offense, scoring 23 per game. Bottom line, that the net points is so close that when we factored in the turnover differential, where the Texans have the greatest advantage, it wrote the Pythagorean bias plus score to the Texans side, which is why the bias of plus 0.2. It's a small difference, but it's a little bit of the swing. So that kind of got there because of the turnover differential favoring the Texans here. So I'm looking for a good game, actually.
I'm hoping for a good game. I've seen a little Jekyll and Hyde in the Texans in the past, but if they come to play, this could be a really good one. Both teams have clinched playoff spots. I think the Texans are still trying to solidify a division title. C.J. Stroud threw 2 touchdown passes. Both of them went to Nico Collins, but it was the defense's day to shine against Miami. They shut down the Dolphins' ground game, only giving up 52 yards on 19 carries, which is pretty pathetic for a team that has a good running back like my man, Achane. But that forced Tua to have to throw the ball 40 times, and they intercepted him 3 times and recovered a sack fumble. So they did the do on the old Dolphins there. Tua's starting to fold up, bro. I don't know if he's got much left, but we'll see. Now the Chiefs defeated the Browns. We just talked about that game, 21-7. Patrick Mahomes threw 1 touchdown pass in the second quarter to Noah Gray, the other tight end, and he threw 1 Xavier Worthy, the speedster. That was in the third quarter. That opened up a 21-0 lead, and then they held on through a sloppy second half where they punted 5 times. 5 of those punts came on 3 and outs, and they were stopped on downs once. Mahomes actually went forward on 4th down through an incompletion, and that was the play that he got his ankle rolled up on. He suffered a high ankle sprain, which is usually considered pretty bad, and players have been known to miss multiple games. But I believe he was at practice today. I believe he was limited, and he says he's going to be good to go this week. So we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to say with this guy. He limps off and comes running back on so many times. I don't know. I don't know what this guy is on, but he doesn't stay hurt very long. That being said, I'm going to go with the bias because I believe that the Chiefs are really reeling right now. I don't know how long they can keep on pulling out these wins. And they actually had a tough time with the Browns, believe it or not. Not necessarily because of anything that the Browns were doing, but because they got limited resources, man. And their defense is hurting too. So I'm going to go with the Texans and go with the bias to beat the Chiefs.
Okay. All right. Going with the Texans, going with the bias. That's, again, it's just a little crazy because that is the Chiefs that we're talking about. However, next up we have, and this is the second game on Saturday, Steelers at Ravens by 3.8 favors the Steelers, Benny. Even after they got whooped up on by the Eagles, the Steelers, let's see, they have a 1.1 net point advantage. So when you look at the internals, they have the 6th ranked defense, and they're going up against that 3rd ranked Ravens offense. So they're allowing 18, and the Ravens are scoring 29. Now they're 11th ranked offense. They're only scoring 24. The Ravens, however, have a 22nd ranked defense, so they're allowing 23.7. So basically 24. So Steelers can get off on what their averages are. The question is then what can they do? Now this is the crazy part, Benny. The Steelers and the Ravens over the last 10 years, okay? Steelers have had a decided advantage.
Yes, they have.
I believe I think it was like 20 games played, they won 14 and the Ravens won 6.
Yep.
So, that's kind of the strangeness that goes into this. And this is a division battle, right?
Yes, it is. And there's their second go round. And in the first go round, the Steelers held serve and they won the game. But some things have happened to both teams since then that make me have to think twice before I just automatically say the Steelers got their number. So the crazy thing is the Steelers actually clinched the playoff spot, but not because they won their game, because they didn't. It was losses by Indianapolis and Miami that allowed them to clinch their playoff spot, which wasn't the way they wanted to do it. But against the Eagles, Pittsburgh offensive coordinator Arthur Smith had no answer for Vic Fangio's defensive schemes. Russell Wilson missed George Pickens, his best wide receiver, very badly, although I don't know if that one player, as good as he is, would have made a difference in this particular game. Russell only threw for 128 yards and 1 touchdown that went to Pat Freiermuth, and he managed 2 field goals all in the first half, or managed to direct drives that got them 2 field goals. All that was in the first half. The second half was a total disaster for the Steelers, with only 2 total possessions in the entire half, as Philadelphia controlled the clock completely. They couldn't even get their offense on the field. That's not good going up against a team like the Ravens. I'll tell you that right now. Now, as far as the Ravens are concerned, Lamar Jackson threw for a spectacular 21 of 25, 290 yards, 5 touchdown passes. And that was in the Ravens' 35-14 demolition of my Giants. So, people are going to go, well, it was the Giants. And guess what? I can't say nothing. The run game was mixed in really well, even though Lamar had a fabulous game. Derrick Henry totaled 67 yards on 14 carries. He can get away with 14 carries if Lamar gets his runs in. Check this out. Lamar ran for 65 yards, 2 yards less than Henry, on 6 carries. About half as many carries. That's why I keep saying, yeah, we want Derrick Henry to get the ball 20 plus times. And yeah, they'll probably win most of those games, if not all of them, if he in fact carries the ball 20 plus times. But if Lamar gets his runs in, that pretty much seals the deal. They need them both. That's how their offense is built. That's how they got to run this thing. So even the backup running backs got into the game. Justice Hill played a little bit. Rookie running back Rasheen Ali, and this is the first time I've actually seen him in a game. I'm not sure if he's got any other game appearances, but even he got into the game. So they combined to build up that rushing total. I'm going to go with the Ravens this time. I think they split with the Steelers. They're not going to let they're going to break I don't know if there's a streak going on right now, but they're trying to make this comeback against the Steelers, beating them all the time. So I believe that's going to start in this particular game. That would put me against the bias. But yes, I'm going to take the Ravens.
All right. Now you were not happy with the amount of passing, or as you said last week, they're trying to make Lamar into a pocket quarterback. What did you think about that? I'm thinking maybe I can get Ben to criticize the coaching over at Baltimore a little more because when he criticizes them, Lamar goes crazy.
Yeah, well, if I said they're trying to make him into a pocket passer, I didn't exactly mean that. But what I'm saying is they're trying to get him to be more productive from the pocket, which calls for less called runs. I'm not talking about scrambles or anything. I'm talking about called runs. He needs his called runs. He knows it. His mama knows it. And I'm
So
sure
you're
they let the
talking about
coaches
not
know it.
just runs where he drops back and takes off because there's nothing.
No,
You're talking about an option
called
type play
plays,
where they're getting the ball in his hands to run the ball.
options, straight takeoffs, whatever.
Okay, all right, all right. Well, I think philosophically you and I might differ there, but let's move on. Still, Ravens going against the bias, going with the Ravens. Who's up next, Benny? We're talking about Sunday at 1 o'clock. We have a plethora of contests getting ready to kick off. Here we have the Cardinals at the Panthers by a split score of 14.8. Favors those Cardinals, Benny. Now, on one side of the ball, you got 22.4 points per game. And that's Bryce. And again, we're liking Bryce, right? Bryce might be able to take a couple notes from Kyler because they maybe about the same size. Kyler's a little thicker, I think, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
On how to move around back there, you know. But it looks like the Panthers are going to stick with Bryce Young and through 2025 is what I read here. So what you see is what you get. I think the Cardinals are better than the Panthers, and they come in. When you start messing around with that, what you call it, the wild NFC West.
Yep.
Start messing because guess what? I don't think anybody in the NFC West has clinched anything.
You may be correct. I could double check that real fast. But
Yeah,
as we go through, and I mentioned each NFC West team, we'll keep an eye out and see if I say clinched next to any of them.
yeah.
Right now, the Cardinals are 7-7. They're on the bubble. Panthers are 3-11. Obviously, they've been eliminated. This is a big game for the Cardinals. They need to win this one to stay in the hunt. You want to get off the bubble and in the hunt before you can think about getting the clinching spot. So the Cardinals controlled the clock against the Patriots with a very strong run game last weekend. They converted on 10 of 15 third downs. They gained 163 yards on 32 total carries. 110 of those yards and 2 touchdowns came by James Conner, who's very I think he's underrated as a running back. This guy is a top-notch running back, man.
You might be right.
Yeah. Now, the Panthers quarterback, Bryce Young, has shown very noticeable improvement since getting his starting job back, but he had a really tough game against Dallas. The Cowboys shut down the Carolina run game. They dared Young to beat him through the air. He threw for 219 yards and 1 touchdown, but he was forced into 2 fumbles, and he got picked off twice, and they got trounced by the Cowboys 30-14. That being said, I'm picking this as a win for the Cardinals. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, now they did say he would be competing for a quarterback spot in 2025. They did not say who he would be competing against, however.
So, Bryce?
Yeah.
Competing?
That's the word they use. They say they're sticking with him, but he would be competing for, a quarterback spot.
With who?
That was my question. With who? They didn't say.
That's a bad look. That's if that report came out of their facility, I don't think that was a smart thing to do. He should be named the number 1 going in and wait for the draft and free agency and all that before we start deciding who he's going to compete with or if he's going to have to compete for the job. He's the number one pick overall, lost the job, got it back, showed improvement on a team that's really not strong at all. If you can't say this guy's my starter going in the next year, that's a problem for me.
All right, there you go. Ben's going with the bias, going with the Cardinals. Next up, Lions at Bears. Bias plus score 14.8 favors the Lions, Benny. This would be like a get-right game if they go in and get this thing done. But you know something? What's interesting, watching Caleb last week, everything looked helter-skelter. I'm thinking maybe they need to go back and review the 3, 5, and 7-step drops. Get the ball out your hand. If you could get at least the 3 and the 5, because he got people open when he starts running around. They're standing there looking at him like, okay, well, that's what you want to do, So it is interesting what's going on there. And the Lions, I went to take a look and see if I could, on our Facebook page, Benny, because on the Facebook page I posted, I do believe I did anyway, a list of all the teams that were on, or all the players that were on the injury list. But it doesn't look as if that I got that on there. But there's like 16 players on the defense for the Lions. They've got
it's a minimum of 16.
Say a minimum of 16.
Yeah, 2 more guys got hurt this past weekend.
Oh,
2 starters.
Oh, Jimmy Christmas.
It's bad.
That's just really crazy timing as you go into the end of the season like this. All right, so we have Lions at Bears, bias plus score 14.8 favors those Lions. What do you got?
Well, Lions are 12-2. Obviously, they have clinched. Bears are 4-10. They have been eliminated, but they're trying to make this Caleb Williams thing work. Now, I'll tell you this. This is how I'm looking at this. The reason I think that you're seeing some of the things you're seeing as far as guys being open and him not seeing them, and what I'm going to say is going to sound like it should be the opposite, but it's really not. I agree with you. He needs to get under center more and take these 3 and 5-step drops and learn to read through his progressions. But what they're dealing with here is a guy who probably never went under center his entire college career. USC, they ran him out of the shotgun or the pistol almost 99.9% of the time. So they're trying to do things that require different skills by using him with the skills that he's already got. Doesn't make sense, but I think that's what they're trying to do. And it obviously ain't working. But anyway, Lions have clinched. They took a bad loss against the Bills last week. The Bills actually jumped on them 14-0, put them into the negative game script right off the bat, kind of messed up the run game. Oh, by the way, David Montgomery is injured and out for the season.
Yeah, that's right.
That's going to be a little bit of a problem for their run game. I'll tell you why in a minute. It not only hampered their run game in this particular game severely, but it put Jared Goff in a position where he had to throw the ball 59 times to keep pace with the high-flying Bills offense, which was basically having its way with the Lions' wounded defense. Although the Lions trailed the entire game, Goff did his part to keep him in position to pull it out. He threw for crazy 494 yards, almost 500 yards. Oh, God. 5 touchdowns. He took 3 sacks. He got hit 10 times, but he kept firing. And he only lost 1 fumble, and he didn't throw any interceptions. Jared Goff needs to be in that MVP talk. I haven't heard his name, but he should be up in there. Unfortunately, the injury situation for the Lions defense just got worse. They lost 2 starting cornerbacks. Carlton Davis suffered a concussion, and Khalil Dorsey was carted off with an ankle injury. I'm sure Davis is in the concussion protocol. I don't know if he'll be back this week. Probably not. I don't know how bad Dorsey's ankle injury is, but I heard it was on the bad side. It's possible he could be done and maybe not back until the playoffs. So the Bears took on the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Caleb Williams was able to keep his rookie. Oh, he's got a rookie record streak of 286 straight passes without an interception. So he's able to keep that streak alive. But the Vikings dominated the Bears 30-12. Completely shut out in the first half. They finally got on the board with a field goal halfway through the third quarter. They were able to convert on another field goal and finally score a touchdown in the fourth quarter. But again, far too little, far too late. The Bears just don't have it. They're kind of playing at the string at this point. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
All right. Going with the bias, going with the Lions. That makes sense. Let's look at the next game up. Rams at Jets. Bias plus score 2.6. Favors those Rams, Benny. What do you got on that?
Damn, Rams got the bias. Okay. So the first half between the Rams and the 49ers was in a torrential downpour. It was very difficult for both teams to move the ball. Both teams did convert on one field goal while trading punts through the first half. Then in the second half, the rain stopped. But evidently the field, although the field didn't look bad, the field actually looked like it's very well kept. But for some reason, both teams still had trouble finding the end zone. The Rams did convert on 2 field goals, and the Niners only converted on 1. That ended up being the difference. The Rams were helped by a very persistent ground game that they stuck to, and defensively, they got 3 sacks on Purdy, picked him off once, and they defensed 9 passes. So the Rams looked pretty good in that game, even though they didn't put up a bunch of points. They did what they had to do to get the win. As far as the Jets are concerned, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams somehow, some way, pulled off a vintage performance in Jacksonville. Adams caught 9 passes for 198 yards. That's huge for an old guy like him. He scored 2 touchdowns also, both of them in the second half. That helped the Jets to come back from behind because they were actually losing to the Jaguars. But they did come back and win the game 32-25. Adams also caught his 100th receiving touchdown, making him the 12th player in NFL history to do so. That's big. Yeah. Rodgers threw for 289, 3 scores. The defense pitched in, and they intercepted Mac Jones twice. Good game by the Jets. But I like the Rams. I think Stafford's pretty hot, even though the weather slowed him down last week. I think they'll be popping again. I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Jets.
Going with the bias, going with the Rams, and I will only say about Devontae Adams that catch on the sideline was absolutely ill.
Crazy.
Ill. He contorted his body and got his feet down and caught the ball. And, for an old guy, did you say?
Yeah.
I can see Aaron Rodgers listening in his ear. That's why I called you. Okay, this is why I told you to come. So we could do this. This is what we were supposed to be doing. So
the problem is, do you bring them both back next year? And every 5th or 6th game they have a good one?
Yeah, that's a whole nother question. I'm telling you. A whole nother question. All right, next up. It's your beloved New York Football Giants. We'll be going up against those newly installed quarterback guys, those Falcons. Man, they said enough of your Kirk Cousins, man. This guy, man.
Yeah, well, it was a matter of time.
That's weird. I heard them say something about the way that this team is run. They were saying something to the effect that the use of play action is something that Kirk was really good at. But what it did for him was it kept him from having to do a lot of reads. You do your
Right.
play action, you turn around, you throw the ball. You know what I mean? And they're saying
Right.
this is requiring him to do more reading, and they're questioning about whether he can do it, much less his arm, which everyone is saying looks like there's some velocity problem. That could be coming from that injury, though, couldn't it, Benny? Like he's still not right relative to that. They will put that
He's
ball up.
definitely not right. I think he did his best to get himself prepared for the season. And early in the season, he was good. But over time, it's starting to wear on him physically. And you can see him slowing down. And if you remember, I said I thought they would probably try to stick with him since it looked like they still had a chance to get into the playoffs. And like I said, the Giants are eliminated, the Falcons are on the bubble, so they still have a chance. But I think what's happening now is his physical limitations are taking stuff out of their playbook. He can't make plays outside the pocket. He can't scramble. He just doesn't have it anymore. You know what I mean? And it's affecting his throwing also. But the guy can't move. If he can't just stand there and throw the ball or just make his one fake and then turn around and throw the ball, he's kind of useless to them. So I guess that's why they made the move. I mean, that's a good enough reason for me. But,
Well, the timing, not to do, belittle your Giants, but if you were to have to make a first start,
perfect time to do it.
this is the time. This
It's
is
the perfect time to do it.
yeah.
This is what I thought the Patriots would try to do for Drake May, but they just threw him in the fire. But we'll get to that later. So
Okay.
somehow the Giants, excuse me.
Okay.
So somehow the Giants were able to score twice while they were getting their heads kicked in by the Ravens. At this point, the question is, where will they fall in the draft next year, first, second, or third? And if the GM and or the head coach will still be here. That's all I got about the Giants. There's nothing else really to think about. Where they're going to pick and who they're going to be able to get, because we know they're going to go quarterback first. And, I got my theories on which they should do as a bridge, but we can talk about that at another time too, if it comes up. Anyway, the Falcons ended their 4-game losing streak and kept their playoff hopes alive with a 15-9 win over the Raiders. During that 4-game losing streak, Kirk Cousins had this 4 games, 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Last week I said he had one foot hanging off a cliff, the other foot on the banana peel. Guess what? He slipped. It's no wonder people were talking about Michael Penix taking over for the rest of the season, and Cousins didn't help his cause with his performance against the Raiders, even though they won. He only threw 1 touchdown pass. He threw another interception. He only had 112 yards. And today the decision was actually made. Penix will be the starter going forward. Ay, caramba. I think I'm going to have to go with the Falcons here. I'm going to go with the Falcons. And I believe Penix is going to play well.
Okay. All right. All right. Here's my prediction. Cousins is going to follow the Joe Flacco method and become a backup quarterback and make millions of dollars every year for the next 10 years.
Ooh, Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
No. No, he won't do that.
All right. That's my prediction.
He ain't got it no more.
It's going to be blamed on this injury, and you can heal from an injury enough that you can back somebody up. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Right.
If you know anything about Achilles injuries, the older you are, the worse they are.
Yeah, well, he ain't telling them that. He
doesn't have to tell him that. The doctor tells him that.
Well, the doctor didn't. Well, we'll see. We'll see. That's my prediction. Giants, as you're going with the Falcons.
Yes, sir.
On with the bias. Titans at Colts, Benny. Bias plus score of 7.8 favors the Colts.
Boy. Yeah. Titans 3-11, eliminated. Colts 6-8, on the bubble. Still got a shot. Let's talk about those eliminated Titans. Oh my God, this game got ugly. Will Levis led 2 scoring drives on the Titans' first 2 possessions. Both of them were touchdowns. Both of them were on the ground, one by Pollard, one by Tajay Spears. They held a 14-7 lead into the second quarter, and then the wheels fell off for Will Levis. He threw 2 interceptions on the Titans' next 2 possessions. That was in the second quarter. Then after halftime, he comes out into the third quarter, down 24-14. He threw a pick 6. Then they benched him. On their next possession, it was Tony Pollard's turn to turn the ball over. He had a fumble. That almost got returned for a Bengals touchdown, but the guy running it back fumbled the ball. It went out of bounds. That was a touchback. Mason Rudolph came in for Levis. He did throw 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes in a vain attempt at a comeback, which was, good for Mason Rudolph. But before he did, he threw an interception of his own. All told, they had 6 turnovers, 12 penalties, and a 37-27 loss. Now the Colts, oh God, they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. 2 egregious turnovers. They had 5 total turnovers, 2 of them egregious in their game against the Broncos. One occurred when Jonathan Taylor broke loose for a 41-yard, what looked like touchdown run, but he just inexplicably dropped the ball before he broke the plane of the goal line. It bounced, went out of bounds, out of the end zone. That's a touchback. Ball goes to the other team. That's a turnover. The second one was a double lateral pass. It was a trick play. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, threw a backward pass to Adonai Mitchell, a receiver. Mitchell got the strings on the ball, threw a nice pass back to Richardson. But Broncos linebacker Nick Botino saw it coming, ran between them, picked the ball off, and ran it back for a Denver touchdown. In the meantime, Denver just kept on capitalizing on the Colts' other mistakes and ran out to a 31-13 win. Colts over Titans. Got to go with the Colts.
Got to go with the Colts, Benny. I can understand.
Yeah, they're on the bubble. They still got a shot. Titans got nothing to play for. And I think we've seen the last of Will Levis.
And I don't think their running back will make that same mistake again.
No.
Potential intriguing game here, Benny. NFC East matchup. Eagles at say it with me, Benny, the Commanders. And I told you what my new name for Jaden Daniels is. Magic. Jaden Magic Daniels.
Oh, wait. He had a play. Help me out. He was scrambling. He lost his balance. He dropped the ball. He picked it back up. He spun around 3 times, clicked his heels, and threw a completion. It was crazy. I got to go back and look that one up.
And it went in the end zone, touchdown completion.
It was a touchdown?
Yeah, I saw him do something like that and throw a TD.
Yeah, I think he threw it to McLaren.
Man, look.
Terry McLaren.
Magic Daniels and Scary Terry.
And as soon as he did that, I thought about what you said when you called him Magic. I said, now that right there, that qualifies.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that definitely.
However, the bias plus score of 2.1, Benny, favors those Eagles.
Yes.
Man, look, let me tell you. The Eagles only have a 2.9 net point advantage over the Commanders, right? The Commanders had a small differential advantage, but that only shaved the bias plus score down a little bit from what it would have been. So, and they're in Washington.
Could be dangerous.
Hey, look, Eagles got what travels? Got defense and running game.
And fans.
That's right. They travel. The Commanders. That's nothing.
Yeah, really. Obviously, Eagles are 12-2. They have clinched. Commanders are 9-5. They're in the hunt. I don't think the Eagles have clinched the division yet. The Commanders have their eye on it. A win, oh, I don't know. I don't know if a win won't do it. They're only 9-5. I think the Eagles are going to be okay with the division. But anyway, Commanders are in the hunt. They need to win to make sure they get a spot clinched. Now, as far as the Eagles are concerned, I'm not going to rehash all the he said from inside and outside the Eagles locker room.
Thank you.
I'm sick and tired of all that mess. The bottom line is they were able to put together a quality win against a quality opponent. That was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they did it in a way that silenced a lot of their critics. 290 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air for Jalen Hurts, along with 45 yards and another touchdown on the ground for Jalen Hurts. They scored twice in the first quarter, which has been very rare. You know, I've been chronicling how they haven't scored many points in the first quarter. I think the only other game, actually, I think it was 2 other games throughout the season where they actually kicked a field goal in the first quarter. And both of those games, both of those times, the other team turned the ball over to them in the first quarter and gave them a short field, and they were able to get scores. Other than that, as far as getting the kickoff, driving down, and earning a field goal or earning a touchdown, they haven't been able to do it. But this time, they actually did it twice. Saquon had a relatively quiet day, 20 total touches, 74 yards. Back around midseason, I spoke on a quickly improving defense, and they were very solid again in this one. No spectacular numbers, just extremely difficult to move the ball on. They only allowed Pittsburgh a measly 184 total yards. Very strong game for the defense, very strong game for Jalen Hurts. Now, as far as the Commanders, Jaden Daniels led the Commanders to a 17-0 lead over the Saints that they held into the third quarter and then watched his defense almost cough it up. The final score was a 1-point win of 20-19. Commanders defense is still not to be trusted. I'm going to take the Eagles.
That last drive for the Eagles, that was like an 11-minute drive, man.
Yeah, remember I said Steelers only had the ball twice in the second half.
Yeah. I mean,
they crushed the clock, man.
I'm gonna have to look for the formula to convert time of possession to points.
Hey,
that's you can't win nothing if you ain't got the ball. So
Russell sat on the sideline so long he probably had to shave. Probably a 5 o'clock shadow after the game. Like, oh damn.
Bias plus score 2.1 favors the Eagles. Ben's going with the bias, going with the Eagles. Okay, we're moving to the 4 o'clock game, Benny. 4 o'clock. Another potential intriguing game here. Broncos at Chargers. The bias plus score of only 1.4 favors the Broncos, and they just know how to score a little bit better. Defenses are tied for first in the NFL in terms of scoring defense. Just the Broncos seem to know how to put points up a little bit better than the Chargers. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to tell you this right off the bat, which is probably going to give away who I'm going to pick in this game. There's a big difference. They may be tied in average points against, but there's a big difference between the Broncos defense and the Chargers defense. Big. Now, big. The Chargers scored both teams are in the hunt, by the way. And they're both in the same division, by the way, AFC West.
Yes.
So this is a very, very important game for both teams. Definitely qualifies as an intriguing game. The Chargers scored twice in the first half before the Buccaneers completely solved their defense. And went to work on them boys. 40-17. And the Broncos fell behind the Colts 13-7. It seemed like the Colts couldn't hold on to the ball or the lead, and Denver came back and poured it on them and won 31-13, holding them to 13 after they went out ahead of the Broncos 13-7, basically shut them out for the rest of the game. Big difference between the Denver Broncos and the Chargers. The Chargers, although for most of the season, stayed in very low scoring games. Even when they lost, the other team didn't really get off scoring wise. That trend has been broken. The Buccaneers have destroyed it. Their running game is weak, and they're supposed to be a run first team, but they put all their eggs into J.K. Dobbins' basket. And once he got hurt, nobody else has been able to step up and get the job done. I'm going with the Broncos all the way in this one.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. Those Buccaneers, man, I think they got a guy named Mike Evans or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That guy. That guy. Now, this is another potentially intriguing game, Benny. An NFC contest, not in the same division, but the Vikings at the Seahawks. The bias will score 12.3 favors the Vikings. And Benny, I'm hearing Sam Darnold's skepticism in the on the airwaves. And however, I'm also hearing that if the guy was saying if the Niners could replace Purdy with Sam Darnold, they would do it. Because they think Sam Darnold could run the offense, but he's bigger, stronger, and more mobile than Purdy. I thought that was an interesting scenario. But in any event, it doesn't seem like he's cemented in that job. What is it? J.J. McCarthy was the first round?
Oh, he's 100% he's not cemented.
Oh, okay.
He's not cemented. And word on the street. Now, remember we had the conversation about how much Shanahan liked Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Well, Kirk Cousins, pretty much you can stick a fork in him. But Shanahan has likes and dislikes about different quarterbacks. Kirk was on his like list. Evidently, Darnold is on his like list also. He likes the way he throws the ball. He likes his size. He likes his arm, blah, blah, blah. He thinks he would fit well in their offense. So if the Vikings are going to let Darnold go, which I think they are, that's one place he might end up. Another place he might end up is with the Giants, who may need a strong bridge quarterback coming off of a really good season when they draft a quarterback with their number one pick, be it the first pick overall, second pick overall, whatever. I kind of don't think they're going to be able to get Shador, but I do believe they'll be able to get Cam Ward. He's kind of my second guy. And there's a couple more guys. I forget the guy's name from Oregon, but I kind of like him too. There's only about, I'm going to say there's a strong 4 maybe that are going to be worthy of first round consideration. Definitely Ward, definitely Shador Sanders. After that is crapshoot, but I'm not going to study that too hard until the season's over and I start getting ready for my draft preparations. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So yeah, they can keep talking about Darnold. They keep and every Monday they say, not a pumpkin yet.
Not a pumpkin yet. And you used the word that came up about Kirk Cousins, and that was bridge. A lot of the people and the pundits were also calling Kirk Cousins a potential bridge quarterback for some team. So that would mean that he'd have to start to some degree. But again, I'm looking at him as a backup. However, Vikings at Seahawks, bias will score 12.3 favors the Vikings, and you're going with the bias?
Yeah.
All righty. This is the 4 o'clock.
Oh, wait. I didn't do this game.
Oh, I thought you did this game.
No, we started talking about Sam Darnold.
Aha. Go ahead.
Okay, so Vikings got the bias. They'll be on the road. They are 12-2. They have clinched. The Seahawks are on the bubble. This is an important game for the Seahawks. They will be at home. So we'll have to see what they can do here. Now, after a strong showing in week 14 against the Cardinals, the Seahawks seem to have no answer whatsoever from Matt LaFleur's offense. And Green Bay took it to him. Threw 2 interceptions, 5 penalties for 108 yards. Neither of those things helped the Seahawks. And Geno Smith got hit low and went out of the game in the third quarter with a knee injury. As of yesterday's walkthroughs, it looks like he escaped any serious damage. It's a good possibility Geno will be there to play. Part of the Monday night doubleheader was an NFC North battle between the Vikings and the Bears. Sam Darnold, who we just talked about, surely did not have one of his better games. But a solid defense and a ground game that produced 2 touchdowns took all the life out of the Bears. Not that they had a lot anyway. I'm going to stick with the Vikings in this one. I think they still have too much for the Seahawks, and I believe Darnold will have to bounce back.
All right, going with the Vikings, going with the bias. All right, Benny. My beloved 49ers at the Dolphins. Bias will score 2.6, favors my Niners. So you got Niners West, Niners East, similar quarterbacks. Neither one can play in a storm. I'm rooting for a torrential rainstorm, so we can watch both of them struggle at this particular point. It's crazy. Purdy is literally shaving points off of his contract as people begin to see the limitations, but so similar to Tua, so similar. What can I tell you? You know, Niners East, Niners West. Niners West is favored by us plus 2.6.
As they should be. They're 6-8. The Dolphins are also 6-8. Both teams are on the bubble, so there's still hope. In a game between NFC West foes that are known for their offensive prowess, it was really weird to watch these two battle in a 12-6 final, those two being the Niners and the Rams. The Niners didn't look like themselves, and they could only put together 2 real drives, and both of those drives ended in field goals. Purdy was downright bad. They could only total 63 yards on the ground. Very, very un-Niner-like. If they didn't have the uniforms on, I wouldn't have known who the heck I was watching. Speaking of bad quarterback play, Tua threw 1 touchdown pass, 3 interceptions, and he lost a fumble, and he got nothing out of his running game in their game against Houston, which they lost. Tua's playing bad, bro. He's not looking good at all, I'm telling you. Now, maybe, he had a couple bad weather things or whatever. I think he's fallen off. I think he's had all he can handle. I'm going to go with the Niners on the bounce back for Purdy.
A bounce back from Purdy. Well, okay.
Not to mention I need him in fantasy because I got Kelsey and Jennings on my team. So right. I need him to go to work, man.
Did you say Kelsey?
Yep.
You don't mean Kittle.
Oh. I'm sorry. Kelsey plays for Kansas City. Well, I do have Kelsey. I need the same thing for Mahomes. I need him to play.
Okay.
I shouldn't even mention fantasy because I'm in some grinded out games this week.
All right. Well, good luck with that. We move on to Patriots at Bills, Benny. AFC East bias plus score 23.9 favors the Bills. I'm going to suggest you just go with the Bills and leave it at that.
Say what?
How much analysis do you really need here? That's the question.
Well, I got to talk my man up because he's going for MVP. The boy's on a heater. Seems like he can do no wrong.
One of the insider guys, whatever, supposedly has canvassed GMs, and of like 28, I'm going to say that he canvassed 26 were saying they would vote for Josh Allen, and it was only 2 for Lamar.
Okay, nobody says Saquon?
Maybe one guy in the back.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
Okay.
But I think he deserves it. I'm not surprised. In a game that promised to be a scoring fest, the Bills got out to the fastest start, faster than the Lions, obviously. Got 2 touchdowns early on their first 2 possessions. The Lions eventually joined the party, started scoring, but the Bills got that 2 touchdown lead and they held on to it, and they won the game 48-42. The Patriots have now lost 4 straight games after getting trounced by Arizona 30-17. Their season is all but over. They couldn't really get much going until the fourth quarter when they stacked most of their yardage and their points. Again, far too little, far too late. Take the Bills.
I think that's what I said. Take the Bills. Anywho, Patriots at Bills, that's a pretty big a bias right there. That's a pretty big a bias. What do we got here? Jaguars at Raiders. Bias plus score of 3.3 favors the Jaguars. Benny, the Jaguars.
Well, I mean, I guess somebody's got to be favored, right? They're 3-11. The Raiders are 2-12. Both teams have been eliminated. So at this point, we're just trying to put some tape out there in case you're working on a contract year or you feel like you might not be around next year. So you got to give your new team something to look at if you have to make a move. The Jags have Mac Jones now quarterbacking. They built a 16-10 lead into the third quarter until the Jets came roaring back behind all that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams magic. Mac Jones actually had a pretty strong game, though. He went 31-46, 294, 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. Jags were decent on the ground, but between the turnovers and their defense, which had little to no pass. Let me tell you something. These guys got 0 pass rush, man. And I think they took a pass rusher in the first round this past draft. They couldn't get anywhere near Aaron Rodgers, and he ain't nimble at all. Okay, they couldn't lay a finger on this guy. That's why they lost 32-25. Let him stand back there and burp the baby. Can't be doing that, man. Raiders defense.
I hadn't heard the burp the baby in the hot.
Oh yeah, burp the baby. The Raiders defense wasn't bad against the Falcons, but Desmond Ridder couldn't carry the offense once the run game got shut down. The Falcons defense actually played really well in that game, believe it or not. Ridder barely threw over 200 yards. His 1 touchdown was overshadowed by the 2 interceptions that he threw. Alexander Madison, starting running back, also had a crucial fumble. Ridder got sacked 4 times, hit 6 times, 10 tackles for loss, 8 passes defended. That's domination on defense. I can't take the Raiders. I don't want to take either one of these teams. I really don't. You know what? I'm going to take the Raiders.
You know, it's funny you say, I'll give it a say, Benny. There's one play that stood out to me with the Raiders. They had a safety last week. And they're running the ball. The ball was down at like the 1 yard line, right? So you got to run it out of your end zone. And they're running it from the shotgun. Oh, really? You're running it from the shotgun? Oh my God. It's some of the coaching, some of the decision making is just absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. All right. So you're going with those guys though, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders. Something about the Jaguars just stinks for me.
All right. Well, you're going against the bias.
Smells bad.
Going against the bias. Uh-oh. It's Sunday night. Buccaneers at Cowboys with a bias plus score of 12.6 favoring the Buccaneers. And look here, man. Let me tell you something. I ain't no big Baker Mayfield fan, but Baker and Mike Evans is getting it in. Baker's working on people down
there. Telling me. So, along the lines of what I talked about with the Eagles-Steelers game and what the Eagles did to the Steelers defense, the Bucs went to LA and made the vaunted Chargers defense look downright ordinary. Meanwhile, the Bucs defense themselves completely neutralized the Chargers run game and harassed and hit Justin Herbert 10 times, sacked him 3 times. It was Baker Mayfield's 100th career start, monumental day for him, and he torched the Chargers secondary for 288 yards and 4 touchdowns. Big day for Baker. The Bucks ground game was stellar also. 39 total carries, 223 yards.
Wow.
Even the kicker got into it. He completed 4 out of 4 field goals. Now, I believe Mike Evans had close to 200 yards in receptions. It was like 195 or something. I knew a couple of weeks ago they said that he needed to average like 95 per game all the way to the last game to get his 1,000-yard season. But he's well on his way there now. If they keep it up, he should get it. Let's see. Oh, the Cowboys. Can't forget about the Cowboys. So Las Vegas actually had the Cowboys as the underdogs on the road against Carolina. They wasn't trying to hear that. They punished the Panthers 30-14. Cooper Rush threw a career high 3 touchdowns. Rico Dowdle ran for a career high 149 yards on 25 carries. And the Cowboys defense pummeled Bryce Young, forced 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, had 6 sacks, and 10 quarterback hits. They beat Bryce up, something terrible, man. But you got to take the Bucks. They're hot right now. They're really rolling. They're trying to lock up the division, and I think they're going to be a little bit too much for the Cowboys defense. Even though the Cowboys defense played well, that was against the Panthers. I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Going with the bias, going with the Bucks on this one. Well, that was Sunday night. What follows, Benny, is Monday Night Football. And on Monday night, we have the Saints at Packers with a bias plus score of 9.2, favoring those Packers, Benny. Saints at Packers. The Saints is just weird, though. You know? I mean, what can I tell you? You know?
Somehow the Saints are still on the bubble, believe it or not, at 5-9. Unbelievable. I think, now I shouldn't speculate, but I'm pretty sure if they don't win this game and the Bucks do win their game, they should lock up. That should lock up the NFC South for the Bucks and could possibly eliminate the Saints. But that's kind of speculation on my point, just looking at the numbers. Packers are going to be a home team. They're 10-4. They are still in the hunt. Remember, in the hunt means if the playoffs were to start today, they would be in it. They still have a chance. Oh, that's right. The NFC North is not locked up yet. Vikings, Packers, Lions. It's anybody's ball game, folks. So as far as the Saints are concerned, Jake Haener got the start, but he couldn't do much. He took 3 sacks. He threw a pick. He got benched. He was replaced by Spencer Rattler at halftime. Rattler came into the game down 17-0 and immediately began to bring the Saints back. He led 4 scoring drives, 2 for touchdowns, 2 for field goals. But the last drive, they scored a touchdown with time running out, went for 2 and tried to get the win, but they did not get the 2-point conversion, and they lost 20-19. 2 of the Packers, this is interesting. 2 of the Packers' 4 losses have come in their last 10 games, both of them at the hands of the Detroit Lions. But they've won the other 8 games, including a convincing 30-13 win over Seattle. Jordan Love had a strong game with 20-27, 229, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Both his touchdowns went to Romeo Doubs, who was having trouble holding on to the ball a little earlier in the season, but had 2 really nice catches for touchdowns in this game. And Josh Jacobs, the running back that they brought in when they let Aaron Jones go, had a big day. He did have a fumble, but he made up for it because he racked up 136 yards and a touchdown on 30 total touches. The defense was super stout also, because we had some questions about the Green Bay defense, but they were real good in this one. They hit Geno a merciless 12 times. They sacked him 7 times. They knocked him out of the game with a knee injury, and they also had 10 tackles for loss and 7 passes defensed. So big day for the defense. of the Packers. I got to go with the Packers on this one. The Saints can't stand up to these guys.
Yeah, I don't think the Saints are ready for that right now. Going with the bias, going with the Packers. Benny,
Yes, sir.
Monday Night Football.
Yep.
I don't think we had a doubleheader, so that would wrap up the Bias Plus reports for Week 16, leaving only one major announcement. Major announcement, Benny. This is a major announcement. You ready for this? This is the Bias Plus Buster of the Week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Very well deserved.
Oh my goodness. We just talked about them boys. Baker's running the score up.
Yes, emphatic win. Very well done. Defense is starting to wake up. I don't know what the problem was because they got the players, they got the scheme, they got the coach, but Baker's not going to let them fall. He's got that offense rolling.
Well, I know one thing. It's hard to run up the middle on those guys. They got some kids on the line in the middle for sure.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, absolutely. All right, Benny. That wraps it up for me. Any last words?
Now I'm good to go.
All right. That's Ben and Barry on football at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. Come and join us. Peace.